Have you ever been judged for something that meant the world to you? Hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever had someone misjudge your worth, because this story might just restore your faith in karma and the hidden value of what we hold dear. Martin Green clutched his son's small hand as they walked into Pinnacle Industries' gleaming headquarters. The watch on his wrist, scratched, worn, with its leather strap cracked from years of wear, felt suddenly heavy under the fluorescent lights. But today wasn't about his insecurities, it was about 7-year-old Lucas, whose school was touring the company as part of their Future Innovators program. "Dad, your watch is ticking really loud," Lucas whispered, his voice carrying in the marble lobby. Martin smiled down at his son, adjusting the timepiece. "That's how you know it's special, buddy. Sometimes the oldest things work better than anything new." What Martin didn't mention was that the watch, a Patek Philippe chronograph from 1953, was the last gift from his father before he passed away. It hadn't left Martin's wrist since the funeral 3 years ago, not even when he had to sell their family home to make ends meet after his wife abandoned them, leaving him to raise Lucas alone. "Welcome to Pinnacle Industries," announced a sleek tour guide, her corporate blazer perfectly pressed. "Today you'll meet our CEO, Ms. Victoria Harrington, who's taken time from her busy schedule to inspire our young visitors." The children buzzed with excitement as they were ushered into a conference room decorated with the company's achievements. Victoria Harrington stood at the head of the table, her presence commanding attention. At 35, she had climbed to the top of the tech industry with ruthless efficiency, earning both admiration and fear from her employees. "Future leaders of America," Victoria began with a practiced smile. "Who here wants to know what it takes to run a billion-dollar company?" Hands shot up, Lucas's reaching highest of all. Victoria's gaze swept the room, but it snagged on Martin standing against the back wall. More specifically, on the watch adorning his wrist. "You, sir," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "Are you aware that this is a tour for our Future Innovators, not a charity outreach program?" The room fell silent. Martin felt heat rising to his face. "I'm Lucas's father. I'm chaperoning." Victoria stepped closer, her designer heels clicking against the floor. "Interesting choice of timepiece for a corporate visit. Did you find it at a garage sale?" A few parents chuckled nervously. Lucas looked up at his father, confusion clouding his eyes. "It was my father's," Martin replied quietly, resisting the urge to hide the watch behind his back. "Well," Victoria continued, barely acknowledging his response, "at Pinnacle, we value precision and excellence. That's why I wear a Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime." She extended her wrist, displaying a gleaming modern watch. "Limited edition, $2.3 million. Perhaps something to aspire to, children." Lucas's small fingers wrapped around Martin's hand. "Dad's watch is special too," he said, his voice small but determined. Victoria's smile tightened. "Of course it is, young man. Now, shall we continue with our tour? We have real innovation to show you." Martin swallowed his humiliation as they followed the group through the building. He noticed a few parents keeping their distance, as if poverty might be contagious. Only Mrs. Abernathy, Lucas's teacher, offered a sympathetic smile. "I think your watch has character," she whispered. "And Lucas is so proud of you." The tour continued to the research and development floor, where Victoria was highlighting the company's latest technological breakthrough when an elderly man in an impeccable suit stepped off the elevator. The security team immediately straightened. "Dad?" Victoria's voice lost its polished edge. "What are you doing here? I thought you were in Geneva until next week." Harrison Harrington, legendary founder of Pinnacle Industries and retired CEO, smiled at the group of children. "Thought I'd surprise my daughter. And meet these young minds I've heard so much about." As Harrison moved through the crowd, shaking hands with starstruck parents and ruffling children's hair, his eyes fell on Martin, or rather, on Martin's wrist. "Excuse me," Harrison said, his voice carrying the authority of decades of command. "That watch. May I see it? The room hushed again. Martin reluctantly extended his arm, bracing for another round of humiliation. But Harrison's weathered hands cradled the timepiece with unexpected reverence, turning it gently to examine the back. "Good Lord," Harrison whispered. "It can't be." Victoria approached, irritation evident in her stride. "Dad, we're in the middle of—" "Quiet, Victoria." Harrison's voice was soft but left no room for argument. He looked up at Martin. "Where did you get this watch?" "It was my father's. James Green. He passed away 3 years ago." Harrison's face paled. "James Green? From the 107th Infantry?" Martin nodded, surprised. "Yes, sir. He served in Vietnam." A transformation came over Harrison's face. The shrewd businessman gave way to something more vulnerable. "Your father saved my life in Da Nang, 1971. I took shrapnel in my leg. He carried me 3 miles to the extraction point under enemy fire." The room was utterly silent now. Victoria's perfect composure had cracked, her mouth slightly open in shock. "After we came home, I tried to find him to thank him properly, but he'd disappeared. Said he didn't want any recognition." Harrison carefully turned the watch over again. "This is a Patek Philippe reference 1518 in rose gold. Only 281 were ever made. But this one is special." Harrison pointed to tiny engravings on the back that Martin had always assumed were scratches. "These marks aren't damage. They're coordinates, where your father saved my life. And this serial number." Harrison's voice broke. "This was the watch I gave him before we shipped out. He refused to take my money, so I gave him my grandfather's watch instead. He said he'd keep it until I became the success my grandfather believed I could be." Victoria stepped forward, her earlier disdain replaced by confusion. "Dad, what are you saying?" Harrison looked at his daughter with disappointment. "I'm saying, Victoria, that this man's father is the reason you exist. If James hadn't carried me out that day, I would have died in Vietnam." He turned back to Martin. "Your father returned the watch to me when I started Pinnacle. Said I'd earned it back. I refused and told him to keep it for his son someday." Harrison smiled sadly. "James insisted I take it, but I secretly transferred the ownership documents to his name. I never thought I'd see it again." Lucas tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, is that true? Is our watch famous?" Martin knelt beside his son, equally stunned. "I didn't know, buddy. Grandpa never told me this story." Harrison addressed the room. "This watch isn't worth $2 million like my daughter's. To collectors, in this condition, with this provenance, it's worth at least $12 million. Gasps echoed through the room. Victoria's face had lost all color. "But its true value," Harrison continued, "is immeasurable. It represents a debt I can never repay." He turned to Martin. "I'd like to offer you $12 million for it right now, not because I want to own it, but because I want to honor what your father did for me." Martin stared at the watch, seeing it through new eyes. All the times he'd almost pawned it during the hardest months after losing their house, after taking the night shift at the warehouse to pay for Lucas's asthma medication. "I can't sell it, sir," Martin said finally. "It's all Lucas has to remember his grandfather by. But I appreciate knowing its history now." Harrison nodded, respect evident in his gaze. "Then perhaps you'll consider another proposition. Pinnacle has a foundation scholarship for children of veterans. Lucas would qualify. Full education through graduate school, if he wants it." Lucas's eyes widened. "And," Harrison added, "we have an opening in our engineering department. Your resume suggests you're more than qualified, Mr. Green." Victoria finally found her voice. "Dad, we can't just—" "Actually, Victoria," Harrison interrupted, "we can. And we will. In fact, I think Mr. Green would make an excellent addition to your executive team. Someone who understands value beyond the price tag. The tour concluded with Harrison personally showing Lucas and Martin the company's aerospace division, explaining how James Green's bravery had inspired some of Pinnacle's most humanitarian innovations. As they prepared to leave, Victoria approached Martin in the lobby, her earlier arrogance replaced by genuine remorse. "Mr. Green, I behaved inexcusably today," she said quietly. "I judged you by appearances, and I was wrong." Martin nodded, accepting her apology without words. "My father taught me about value and legacy," she continued, "but somewhere along the way, I forgot what really matters. I'd like to learn from you, if you'll give me the chance to earn your respect." Martin looked down at his watch, the timepiece that had traveled from war to peace, from one generation to another, carrying stories he was only beginning to understand. "Time has a way of revealing what truly matters, Ms. Harrington," he said. "I think your father would be proud to see you remember that lesson now." 2 years later, Martin sat in his office at Pinnacle Industries, where he led the company's new Veterans Initiative program. The watch still adorned his wrist, though now he understood its true value, not in dollars, but in the legacy of courage, sacrifice, and honor it represented. Victoria had transformed as well, focusing the company on ethical innovation rather than profit margins alone. Her father had returned from retirement to mentor both her and Martin, and together they had built something more meaningful than success. And Lucas? He wore his grandfather's dog tags around his neck now, proudly telling anyone who would listen about the hero whose blood ran through his veins, and about the watch that wasn't just a timepiece, but a reminder that the most valuable things in life can't be measured by their price tag, but by the stories they carry and the lives they touch. Sometimes, the things we mock are the very things that can change our lives forever. And sometimes, the most worn and weathered exteriors hide treasures beyond imagination, waiting for the right moment to reveal their true worth. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe for more reminders that in a world obsessed with the newest and shiniest things, sometimes the most precious treasures are the ones with history, with meaning, with soul. Because in the end, it's not about what we own, it's about what we value, and why.